to this evening's presentation of Destination Opera. I'm Alexis Hamilton, and I'm the Education and Outreach Manager for the Portland Opera. It's so nice to see some familiar faces. And tonight we're going to be discussing Turandot with Barbara Drinka, who is on the faculty at the Oregon Psychoanalytic Center and is also a psychoanalyst there. She's also one of the very busiest women that I've met. All these women and men that I work with who are working over there are insanely busy, and they're all over the place. And in her, you can see her biography here. She works with children. She's all over the place. And it's very hard to get together with them and have long discussions, which is too bad because the discussions are actually my favorite part of the process. And then to come here and get to talk to all of you. So really quickly, by raising your hands, who's seen this particular production of Turandot? Excellent. I'm sure you all have much to say about it. And we shall, and we do want to definitely discuss that, and we want to save about half an hour at the end, but we would like to get through some of the other points about Turandot and some of the theories that Barbara has and think about it. So if we can hold off on that part of the discussion until later, I promise I will give you all the opportunity to either vent your spleen or sing your praises at that time. So, one of the things that we wanted to start with is kind of give you some context for Puccini himself. And I wanted to talk a little bit about his life. I'll probably be very brief. Barbara may jump in. She has just read a terrific bio of him and probably knows more about his lovers and dalliances than I do at this point. But I did want to talk a little bit about Puccini the man. He's quite a dichotomy. Here he is, a fun-loving man of the theater, and he truly was a bon vivant of the theater. On the other hand, he had great anxiety about his creative process. He worried about whether he was any good or not. And he wrote some poetry that was very sad. I can't wait to die so I can rest. But then on the other hand, he wrote all the rules for his Bohemian Club, which basically said things like the treasurer can abscond with all the funds, and we will live well and eat better. And so he's truly a sensualist in all ways. When he was born into a family that for 200 years, the men of the family were the choir masters of the cathedral at Lucca. So when he was going to become a musician,
What cathedral was it?
I'm sorry, I can hang on.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
It was at Lucca, is the city. It's St. Martin's Cathedral. St. Martin's Cathedral in Lucca. And I will preface all of this. I'm not a musicologist, so you probably know more about this than I do. So I'm much more interested in who the people are than all the dates and where they are from. So you probably know more. So at any rate, he was less when he first started out to be a musician, it was less a calling and an avocation than something that he was going to inherit. He lost his father when he was 5 years old. And immediately, because of course he had a filial obligation to fill this role, he starts music lessons with his uncle, who did not find him at all apt. And he was a bit of a rogue as a child and very strong-willed and did what he kind of wanted to do, and school was not what he really, really wanted to do. He found another master, and that went better. For whatever reason, he got along better with his new teacher. Now, what really turned him on to opera was a production of Verdi's Aida, which at that time was very new. And he walked the distance, and he paid his money, and he went and saw it. And that was his road to Damascus. And he decided that was going to be what he did. He was going to write operas. And his mother, who was very much, she did a lot for him. She adored him. She loved him very much. She probably ran his life a little bit. She made sure that he was able to go to music school. And so She wrote to the Queen and found out a way to get him a scholarship and got a scholarship for him and sent him off to Milan. He goes off to Milan. He is a bit of a rake hell in Milan, plays lots of practical jokes. If you've seen the guys in La Boheme, you know, if those of you who are familiar with La Boheme, all those male friends that bond and feel together, that's pretty much Puccini and his buddies. That he writes so well about those relationships because those relationships are kind of his relationships. His bohemian club, the people he feels comfortable with. Puccini must have been delightful company for other men. You know, he's a hunter, he likes fast cars, he likes fast women, and he makes sure that he has the best of these things. I don't want to talk too much about his career, but he did have people who really helped him along the way as far as his musical career is concerned. As a young man, he studied under Ponchielli, who wrote La Gioconda and was a very successful and famous composer in his own right. His first opera, Le Veli, which probably none of you have ever seen or heard, which was his kind of a journeyman piece, was still very beautiful. People really enjoyed it. It didn't win its competition that it had been submitted for. However, it had some real believers. Boito really believed in it, and so they found the money and they produced it, and people really enjoyed it. But the most important person who enjoyed it was Giulio Ricordi of Casa Ricordi, who became his publisher for the rest of his life, and made sure that he would get paid and get commissions so that he could continue writing. Because one thing about Puccini is he took his time writing operas. He took a long time writing operas, and so he needed backing to make sure that he and his family ate. Now, one of the big figures in his life that I'm sure Barbara's going to have a lot to talk about is Elvira. Elvira, his wife, who did not start out being his wife, and in fact turned out to be one of the great scandals of Italy at the time. He basically hooked up with one of his buddy's wives, and
a piano student
of his, but pretty much, you know,
of
Puccini's, and they ran off together, and she was still married, and they faced a huge scandal. They had a child out of wedlock. Eventually, when her husband died, they were able to marry. Their relationship was extremely tempestuous, and Elvira was jealous and a little paranoid, and Puccini didn't help that because she had every reason to be jealous and a little paranoid. And of course, as she aged, she did not get better. As so many women, we don't age well necessarily, but he did. He just got more handsome and more debonair and more rich and more powerful. And so he had more women. And this made her increasingly intense at home and tumultuous. And what this culminated in was another huge scandal when she accused Doria, a maid in their home, of having an affair with Giacomo. Now, she was probably the one woman in Italy that he wasn't having an affair with. But this did not make poor old Elvira feel any better, and she accused her of all sorts of things, ran her out of the house, and the shame that this caused Doria to commit suicide. The family sued for calumny. I love that word. They sued her for calumny and wrongful death. And she was convicted, but because Puccini paid off the lawyer and the family, she didn't go to jail. This caused another change in their relationship, so they kind of coexisted, and Puccini had carte blanche to do and act as he wished. And he did.